Alright, in this third video on trigonometry and the summary thereof, we'll be looking at what do you do when you get given a question, a very common question in the exams, where you get given two pieces of information and then asked to find something sort of different, but using this. And for that we'll need the cos diagram, which we looked at in the previous video. Alright, so to start off with, let's just rewrite what they've given us. We get 5 sine x equals 3, so I'm just going to write that down. So 5 sine x equals 3. And we also get given that cos x is less than 0, so cos x is negative. Okay, so this one we want to get sine x and cos x, whatever they give us, by itself, so alone, a single trig ratio. So sine x in this case would be 3 over 5. Alright, so now we know what sine x is. And let's just write down cos x here as well. So cos x is less than 0, cos x is negative. So with those two pieces of information, we can go to our cos diagram and go from there. Okay, so we know sine x we see is 3 over 5. Now 3 over 5 is a positive number. And which quadrants are sine positive in? Well, the first and the second quadrant. Right, we can see that here. Sine is positive in the first, sine is positive in the second quadrant. Okay, now we look at cos. Cos is negative, so which two quadrants are cos negative in? That would be in this quadrant and in this quadrant. So which is the only quadrant where both of these things are true? That's right, that would be the second one. So this is where we draw our triangle. Okay, and that is angle x. And what do we know? Well, we've got some information. Sine x is 3 over 5. And we saw right in the first video that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So that would be 3 over 5. Getting back to this, that would be opposite over hypotenuse. And that's 3 over 5. And we can check the 3, it's in the positive, let's just put on y and x here. It's in the positive y direction, and 5, that's just a distance. The radius will always be positive, the hypotenuse in this case will always be a positive value. You just have to check your y and x values for positive and negative. Right, so now we can use the Pythagorean theorem to work out our missing value here. So that would be 5 squared minus 3 squared would give us 16, which is, and the square root of 16 is 4. And this is a good example of needing to check which direction we're going in. So that's in the negative x direction. Right, so now that we have this, any question they can ask is really straightforward from here. So let's compute. Our question is, find the value of 2 tan x minus 3 cos squared x. Okay, so 2, and then tan x is, tan is opposite over adjacent. So that's negative 3 over 4. And it doesn't matter if you put the negative top or bottom or outside to the left, really doesn't matter. Either way is fine. So that's 2 tan x minus 3, and then what is cos x? So cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's negative 4 over 5. Negative 4 over 5, again it doesn't matter if the negative is at top or bottom or outside, but we have squared here. Okay, so that's all we need. Now you can also see you don't have to calculate the value of the angle in these types of questions, because they don't ask for it. They just ask for the tan of the angle and cosine of the angle. And if they asked for x, that would be a little bit different. Then we do something else, or we'd at least have to find, just compute it from here. So often these questions accompany a sort of instruction that says, without the use of a calculator, find 2 tan x minus 3 cos squared x. Okay, but let's continue with our calculation. So this will give us negative 6 over 4, and we can simplify that later, minus 3. This will give us 16 over 25 if we square that. And just for fun, let's just compute this by hand. So if we do all the steps, it'll be negative 6 over 4 minus, and then 3 times 16 is 48 over 25. Now we need to get a common denominator. So common denominator, let's say we make it 100. If we make that 100, then we have to multiply this by 25. So what would that give us? 6 times 25 would give us negative 150 minus, and 48 times 4 give us 160 plus 32 is 192. And that will give us negative 342 over 100. Which we can simplify a little bit to negative 171 over 50. Alright, so that is our answer, and you can check this on the calculator. I think that's about negative 3.42. Maybe even exactly, I'm not even sure. Okay, so that is how we use these two pieces of information to find some other information. Basic idea is, with the two pieces of information you get, in this case, let me just highlight them. In this case, that's one bit of information, that's another bit. That's enough information to tell us which quadrant we're working in. Once we know the quadrant, we can use Pythagoras to find the missing side. We'll usually be given two sides by just having this ratio. And once we have the third side, we can calculate anything because we know sine, cosine, and tangent, what the ratios are in terms of opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Okay, so that's it for video 3 in the summary series. Join me again for video 4.